Welcome to my channel. World Scene News. Subscribe to my channel for news updates all around the world. Let's talk about India, a nation with over 1 billion people, where the streets pulse with energy and life at every hour. From the bustling markets of Mumbai to the historic lanes of Delhi, India's cities are alive with movement, commerce, and ambition. For decades, these roads have been dominated by petrol vehicles, cars, motorcycles, and the iconic auto rickshaws, creating a symphony of honks and exhaust. The sheer number of vehicles is staggering, contributing to both the country's economic growth and its notorious air pollution. But change is in the air. New Delhi, often seen as a microcosm of India's ambitions, is diving headfirst into the electric vehicle, EV revolution. Charging stations are popping up across city corners, and the sight of electric scooters weaving through traffic is becoming more common. India, now the world's third-largest car market, is setting its sights even higher. The country aims to become a global hub for EV manufacturing, leveraging its vast workforce and growing technological expertise. The government is pushing for a massive EV presence by 2030, targeting 35–40% of all two-wheelers on the road to be electric. Ambitious policies, incentives, and subsidies are being rolled out to encourage both manufacturers and consumers to make the switch. And it's not just about two-wheelers. A significant chunk of four-wheelers, family cars, taxis, and even commercial vehicles are expected to go electric, transforming how Indians travel and commute. This isn't just about cleaner air or quieter streets. It's about industrial might, technological innovation, and the creation of millions of new jobs. The EV push is poised to reshape India's manufacturing landscape, offering opportunities for engineers, factory workers, and entrepreneurs alike. India wants to transform its $151 billion auto industry into a $300 billion giant by the end of the decade. This vision isn't just about numbers, it's about national pride, global competitiveness, and a future where Made in India is synonymous with innovation. When a market of this size pivots, the world takes notice. International investors, automakers, and technology companies are watching closely, eager to be part of India's electric future. Automakers from around the globe are eyeing millions of new customers, seeing India as the next big frontier for electric mobility. Partnerships, joint ventures, and technology transfers are accelerating as the race heats up. But India has a clear vision, not just to import technology, but to design, build, and profit from cars and batteries made right here at home. The Make in India initiative is at the heart of this transformation. Enter China, the undisputed champion of the EV world, with its vast factories and global supply chains. China's presence looms large, ready to compete, collaborate, or challenge India's ambitions. But India, a rising power in its own right, is determined to chart its own course. Young engineers, entrepreneurs, and innovators are stepping up, eager to shape the nation's destiny. The stage is set for a dramatic showdown with China, one that will reshape not just trade, but the very politics of the region. The outcome will influence global supply chains and the balance of economic power. It's a high-stakes drama of policy, geopolitics, and billions of dollars. As India plugs in, the world is watching, and the next chapter in the global EV story is just beginning. India is on the cusp of an electric vehicle revolution. The country's cities are buzzing with new EVs, and families are increasingly curious about making the switch to electric. The government is pushing hard for cleaner, greener transportation, hoping to reduce pollution and dependence on oil imports. Meanwhile, China has become the undisputed leader in electric vehicle manufacturing, producing some of the world's most advanced and affordable EVs. On paper, it seems like a perfect match. India needs EVs, and China can supply them. But the reality is far more complicated. Just as Chinese giant BYD, one of the world's top EV makers, was gearing up to enter the Indian market in a big way, it suddenly ran into a wall of red tape and resistance. The Indian government blocked major Chinese EV investments, citing concerns over national security and a renewed push for economic self-reliance. Officials argued that letting Chinese companies dominate the EV sector could put India's future mobility at risk. This tough stance is rooted in the 2020 border standoff between India and China, which sent shockwaves through both boardrooms and government offices. Since then, trust has eroded, and every business deal is viewed through a lens of caution. India is determined not to let a strategic rival control a critical industry of the future. The government wants to build its own EV ecosystem, with Indian companies leading the charge and creating jobs at home. Many Indians are also wary of relying on Chinese technology, especially as the country tries to reduce its dependence on imports and boost local manufacturing. The sentiment is clear: why let China control our mobility when we can build it ourselves? Instead of an outright ban, India used a series of clever policy moves, tightening regulations, increasing scrutiny, and making it harder for Chinese firms to operate freely. In 2024, a new policy slashed import duties for EVs, but only for companies willing to make hefty investments in local manufacturing and technology transfer. This was a clear signal. India wants partners, not just importers. As a result, Chinese companies found themselves sidelined, facing intense scrutiny and a maze of regulations that made entry nearly impossible. India is open to new technology and factories, but draws the line at foreign, especially Chinese, ownership and control. With these protectionist policies in place, Chinese EV makers have been forced to rethink their strategy, looking to neighboring countries and new markets as India builds its own electric future. When India slammed the door, China didn't sulk. BYD built a billion-dollar factory in a neighboring country. This wasn't just another factory, it was a strategic masterstroke. Positioned as a regional export hub, it serves South and Southeast Asia. It's a flanking maneuver, setting up shop next door. Trade agreements could offer a backdoor into India. India now faces a hyper-efficient competitor on its border. India's policy toolkit is an alphabet soup: FAME and PLI. FAME, launched in 2015, makes EVs affordable with subsidies. PLI, the heavyweight, incentivizes local manufacturing. Launched in 2021, it rewards companies for local production. It's part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, aiming for self-reliance. The goal: reduce imports, especially from China, and build industrial capabilities. But building an EV supply chain is tough. China leads in tech and capital. India's policies walk a tightrope, attracting global investment while fencing off China. It's a paradox: needing the tech its policies aim to keep out. A complex dance on the world stage. China didn't take kindly to being locked out of India's market. For years, Chinese companies had enjoyed a steady stream of exports to India, especially in sectors like electronics, solar panels, and more recently, electric vehicles. But as India ramped up its protectionist policies, Chinese firms found themselves increasingly sidelined, their products facing new tariffs and regulatory hurdles. The frustration in Beijing was palpable, with officials and business leaders voicing concerns about what they saw as unfair treatment and a threat to their economic interests. In 2025, China decided to take action on the world stage. It filed a formal complaint with the World Trade Organization, alleging that India's new trade policies were in direct violation of established global trade rules. The move was both a legal maneuver and a political statement, signaling that China was prepared to defend its economic interests through international institutions. China specifically accused India of unfairly favoring its own domestic producers, particularly in the rapidly growing electric vehicle sector, while making it harder for foreign imports to compete. This, China argued, was a clear breach of the principles of free and fair trade that the WTO was designed to uphold. For China, the stakes were enormous. As the world's largest exporter, China relies on open access to emerging markets like India to fuel its economic growth and maintain its global manufacturing dominance. This case was about more than just electric vehicles. It was about setting a precedent for how developing countries could treat Chinese goods in the future. A victory at the WTO would send a powerful message to other nations considering similar protectionist measures, that there are consequences for shutting out Chinese products. It would reinforce the rules-based order that China, despite its size, still depends on to access global markets. For India, the stakes were just as high. If the WTO ruled against it, India could be forced to roll back its protectionist policies, potentially undermining its ambitious plans to build a homegrown green technology industry and create millions of new jobs. Indian policymakers and business leaders watch the proceedings with a mix of anxiety and determination. On the other hand, if India prevailed, it could embolden not just its own government but also other developing nations to pursue similar strategies, using trade policy to nurture domestic industries, especially in critical sectors like green technology and electric vehicles. Legal experts around the world were divided. Some argued that China's case was strong, given the letter of WTO law. Others pointed out that the global mood had shifted, with many countries now prioritizing climate action, national security, and resilient supply chains over strict adherence to free trade principles. The WTO, after all, is not just a legal body but a deeply political one. In recent years, the organization has faced growing pressure to adapt to a world where economic security and strategic interests often outweigh pure market logic. In this new era, arguments about national security and the need for resilient supply chains might give India some much-needed wiggle room, even if the legal case is not entirely in its favor. Whatever the outcome, the decision will have ripple effects far beyond just electric vehicles. It could reshape the rules of global trade for years to come, influencing how countries balance economic growth, security, and the race to lead in green technology. This saga is more than just about electric cars. It's a flashing neon sign of global geopolitics, where industrial policy, trade law, and security intertwine. The India-China EV rivalry is a microcosm of broader competition for influence. The 20x20 border clash turned economic competition into national security. India aims to de-risk its economy, finding alternatives to China. This strategy extends beyond EVs to pharmaceuticals, electronics, and telecom. The global trend is friendshoring, aligning supply chains with allies. The outcome of this EV dispute will have global implications. At the heart of this conflict is a massive economic imbalance. India has a significant trade deficit with China, a source of anxiety. Allowing cheap Chinese EVs would worsen this imbalance. China needs to export to keep its economy growing. It controls 80% of the global EV production chain. India's strategy is defensive, using tariffs to protect its infant industry. The goal: nurture local champions like Tata Motors and Mahindra. The risk: protection can lead to inefficiency and higher consumer prices. India needs Chinese tech but blocks Chinese cars, a delicate balance. This defines the economic relationship between the two giants. Despite high walls, business finds a way. Chinese companies are entering India through partnerships. KTL, a battery giant, is partnering with India's Adani Group. This arrangement gives India access to world-class tech. It's a win-win. India gets tech, China gets a foothold. Indian policymakers face a challenge: blocking cars but not tech. The EV supply chain is globally integrated, making decoupling hard. Recent diplomatic improvements hint at potential cooperation. BYD's management visit signals renewed engagement. Both sides are quietly building secret doors. The India-China EV standoff is a critical fork in global manufacturing. It could set a precedent for the future of global supply chains. Will we see competing blocs or pragmatic alliances? India's protectionist gamble could pay off, building a self-sufficient EV ecosystem. Alternatively, China's lead might be insurmountable, forcing India to lower barriers. The likely outcome is a hybrid model: strategic competition with pragmatic collaborations. The WTO case will drag on, but business realities will prevail. The road ahead is complex, with detours and back alleys. The global race for green technology is on. The India-China rivalry ensures a bumpy ride.